My name is George Jacob. I am one of the co-founders with my wife Dorothy of Bray Jazz Festival. I was aware that there wasn't at the time a kind of a jazz festival event within the Greater Dublin area. Like in the Irish kind of jazz community, like Cork had become the centre of international festival jazz. Now Improvised Music Company had been doing a jazz series with the ESB jazz series that was taking place in Vickers Street, but there was no festival event, there was no weekend festival event within the Greater Dublin area. And so I kind of spoke to public representatives, TDs and councillors, and I got a degree of sort of buy-in that there would be support, and spoke to businesses in the town in Bray, and we put together a proposal that was submitted for that Millennium Fund, and the proposal for Bray Jazz Festival received £25,000, and that gave us the seed funding that allowed us to start the event in the Millennium Year. So we had our first one in 2000. There was no Mermaid Arts Centre at the time, so our main headline shows, Claire Martin, kind of a UK jazz singer, was one of them, and we had Dublin large ensemble. It's interesting that this year, in our 25th year, we have a large ensemble based in Dublin, but it was Conor Guilfoyle was at the centre of a band called the Night in Havana Orchestra, and they were a headliner at the weekend, and Claire Martin opened the festival, and the main shows happened on one of the sound stages up in Ardmore Film Studios. So we had spoken to Ardmore in advance, and they said, sure, we'd be happy to allow you to have the space, but if Steven Spielberg comes calling a week before or a month before, we're going to have to kind of reconsider. We were very fortunate that from the outset, as well as receiving funding from the Millennium Fund, that was obviously a finite, a once-off thing, but the local authorities of Bray and Wicklow supported the event financially and in other ways from the outset. In the early years, we had backing from Diageo, we had backing from other local corporates and sponsors, so we built a financial structure that would allow the event to happen. Obviously, a portion of the costs are underwritten by ticket receipts, but only a portion. The model has always been that more than 50% of the shows that are on are free to attend, and we've continued that from the beginning, and that's made possible by sponsors. The Arts Council have been a funder of Bray Jazz Festival since our second year, and they're our principal funder. Today, we still get support from the local authorities, and we still get sort of corporate support. We liked the idea of having local producers supporting the festival, and for the last 6 or 7 years, Wicklow Wolf Brewing Company have been a sponsor, and this year, for the first time, Glendalough Distillery, who do whiskey and gin and things, they've come on board as a sponsor. One of the best early decisions we took was to know what we didn't know, which was the art form itself. Like we couldn't profess to have the expertise to have programmed. I spoke to the jazz correspondent of the Evening Herald, and he suggested that I speak to the Improvised Music Company as being people that might be able in a position to help. Now we ended up that the former director of IMC, Jerry Godley, was our artistic programmer of our international content for over a decade, and then Kenneth Killeen, who's the current director of IMC, programmed thereafter for a number of years, and then in more recent times, thanks to I guess kind of learning stuff over the last 25 years and the advent of Google and being able to do your research has allowed us to program ourselves. We had a Jim Black band, Alas No Axis, and I know from kind of speaking to players that are really central to the jazz community in Ireland today that that gig was really formative for them. We had another kind of significant kind of act in contemporary jazz, Steve Coleman's Five Elements, and it was another concert that in subsequent years I'm aware of people that it was a kind of a light bulb moment, or it was a formative gig. There are people on the program this year that played with us in the first year. Like I remember one of the gigs that we had in the Porterhouse on Bray Seafront in our first year was Mike Nielsen and Tommy Halferty in duo. And Mike is playing at this year's festival with his trio. He's playing in Mermaid, and Tommy, as part of his kind of 80th anniversary year, is playing in a gig in the Harbour Bar with his quartet. There's been a lot of constants there. Obviously, we've had lots of different projects that have involved the Guilfoyles, both generations, Ronan projects, Connor Guilfoyle projects, and laterally over the last decade, Chris Guilfoyle's projects. Indeed, sort of Chris, when we came back after COVID, one of the things that we did was Umbra, his band, because the members live in different parts of the country and in different countries, we were able to just kind of facilitate a sort of a reforming of kind of Umbra at the festival as one of the double bills that we had in Mermaid. In 2007, Dave Douglas played Bray Jazz, a New York-based trumpeter, and he recorded a live album based on the recordings of the show in Bray, which was a kind of a little bit of a milestone for us. Since then, there have been other projects, and other bands have released recordings of shows that they played in Bray. But the festival has always we've been always very pleased when we can provide opportunities for musicians to either launch this would be maybe with Irish musicians, where there are new projects or new collaborations, or there's an album coming out and they want an opportunity to kind of launch it, and we've had lots of examples of that over the years, and it's a kind of an important part of the small role that we play within the ecosystem of jazz, is to just provide opportunities and platform for musicians to present their work. Headline acts at Mermaid Arts Centre feature two American groups. We're delighted to have Fred Hersch in trio playing our opening night on Friday the 1st in Mermaid, and on Sunday we have trumpeter Eddie Henderson's Miles Davis tribute project. It's the 100th anniversary of the birth of Miles, and he is touring with the project. Eddie Henderson is a really interesting guy. He's in his 80s now, but Miles was a family friend of his. So that bookends the festival in Mermaid on Friday and Sunday, and then on the Saturday night we have Roberto Fonseca, a Cuban pianist who was latterly a member of Buena Vista Social Club, and he kept the torch of that Buena Vista Social Club project kind of flying when the original elders that were in that band had kind of moved on or had retired, or in some cases had passed away. They're double bills, and each of the shows is opened by an Irish project, or two of them are Irish projects. On Friday night we have Mike Nielsen's Sound Recipes opening for Fred Hersch. On Saturday night, Jenna Harris's Berry opening for Roberto Fonseca's La Grande Diversion. And on Sunday, Leo Ossio's CEO Experiment opening for Eddie Henderson's Miles Legacy. We have shows in Whale Theatre in Greystones. We have another Cuban pianist, Harold Lopez Nusa, on Friday night. And we have a really interesting project on Saturday night, which is London saxophonist Sam Braysher's Quartet with Sara Dowling, who's a Palestinian-Irish singer, and she was the Parliamentary Jazz Awards Singer of the Year in 2019. So that's a nice project. A central part of the festival each year has always been early evening recitals in Bray Town Hall, and we have Keris Hafana, a triple harpist from Wales. One night we have Lila Martial, a French singer, and we have Enji, who's a Mongolian singer, coming and playing in trio. Elsewhere, we have a new venue this year. We have a late night venue in Frank's Festival Club, which is in a kind of a warehouse space at the back of Duff's Bar, which is close to Mermaid Arts Centre. We have 3 10:30 shows there. Zaska, the guitarist Max Zaska's ensemble on Friday. We have Poppy Daniels, a London trumpeter, on Saturday, and her group. And we have Nick Roth's Urodny, his Balkan ensemble, on the Sunday night. Lots happening as every year down in the Harbour Bar. This year we have a bigger than ever program in the Harbour Bar. We have 15 bands playing, and then there's music on a jazz trail around the town at the Hibernia Inn, in Duff's Bar, and in the Martello over the weekend. So in total, we have 40 shows this year, and yeah. So it'll be a busy weekend. We're actually quite excited this year that the Dart services will not be closed for maintenance, because every year since the pandemic, when we've been back, we've discovered quite late in the day that there's no darts running. But happily this year, we actually wrote to Iarnród Éireann back in January to say, please, we're going to be 25 years. Can you let us know what your plans are? And in fairness, they wrote back and said, our plans are to not close the Dart to Bray this year, so people can get there and get away Dart. There's also good bus links to the town, and and of course it'll be possible for people to travel between Bray and Greystone shows as well with using the Dart service. More information about the festival, everything that's on, how to book tickets, or where there are tickets available, is available from brayjazz.com, or also if people want to check out our social media handles on Instagram or Facebook. We're really pleased to be back this year for our 25th year. It would have been 27, but for the pandemic. And in some respects, while that ground everything to a halt for 2 years, that also gave us an opportunity to pause, to reflect, and it gave us 2 years off to reimagine what the future might hold. And so, it's great to be back for 25 years, and hope to see as many of you there as can possibly make it on the May weekend.